Hey, I'm Ryan McRae and welcome to Burn the Tavern Down. Today I'm going to be talking about the 5 things the first time DM needs to do to have a really great adventure, have a really great time, and really fall in love with being a dungeon master. So let's get started. Okay, so you want to be a dungeon master and maybe you're a little bit nervous. Maybe you've been playing for a while, you've read through the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Player's Handbook, you understand a lot of the abilities, you understand how to do a saving throw, and you're thinking, yeah, but there's still something missing. I'm still not getting it. Because being a dungeon master takes a lot of different components. Sure, they're usually called a referee because they know the rules. They know when to have a saving throw, what determines a skill check, those sort of things. But those are basic and can be kind of grabbed as the game goes along. You can quickly look up a rule, you can quickly ask one of the players, and you can quickly move on. But I've got 5 tips today for you so that you can be the best dungeon master you can be and to really start enjoying it. So coming in at number 1, you're going to walk yourself through the story you're going to run. And what you're going to do is just map out, where do the players start, where do they find conflict, where do they go next, and map it out to the climax of the story. Maybe it's that big boss battle, maybe it's that rooftop chase. Now, a lot of adventures take many different routes. They don't go from A to B to C to E. People call that railroading. Now, most adventures aren't kind of railroading. You can kind of get there in a lot of different ways. But I would take the time, use a whiteboard, use a big piece of butcher paper and a Sharpie, and map out all the different directions the players can go. That way you're prepared and kind of follow the line of the story, what they choose, but you know what's coming up next. So, map out the story. Number 2, have made up names and features for NPCs that come up out of the blue. Even if you're doing an adventure that's pre-printed, it's already published, you're still going to want to have index cards with just NPC names, a description, something you can make up on the fly. Because when you're in the middle of a story, it's hard for your brain to kind of make something up on the go, but if you've got a card with the name and a feature and maybe a class on it, and it's all done, you don't have to do the statistics, you don't have to have a backstory, but just something they can come up with. Hey, they asked someone at a bar this question, they ask a shopkeeper this question, you have that information all set to go. Also, what I like to have written down on different colored index cards, you can use the same index cards, it doesn't matter, is 3 complications and 3 boons, or 3 good things that can happen. And here's why. When you're running a story, sometimes the dice rolls, sometimes things happen, and the players are coasting through. And I'm gonna be honest, no player likes to coast through an adventure. Nobody likes to play on super easy mode on a video game they've played a lot of. So you wanna have 3 complications that are gonna increase the difficulty of the story. These can vary and you can kind of make up what you'd like it to be. But for example, you could have a weather complication. A huge storm has picked up. A huge snowstorm has occurred. It could be natural, it could be from out of the blue, but what it does is it impedes the characters from moving quickly, maybe from being stealthy. They get hurt on their climb checks, something like that. A good weather complication can kind of add to the theme. It can add to the story. You can play some storm music on the old MP3 player. Remember those? iPods for life. Adding weather is a great complication. Other complications might be something like a clock, where the characters are running out of time to complete what's happening. Maybe a flood is happening, maybe someone's held hostage, but there's a clock. Maybe a villain from a past game has showed up just to take a stab at literally one of the characters. Something that makes the game a little bit more difficult, just so the players feel that pinch of either urgency or survival. The other thing is, characters might be getting worked. they're hitting bad die rolls, villains are hitting great die rolls, whatever it is, they're hurting, and they're hurting a little bit more than they should at this point. So you could have boons like a couple extra healing potions in a treasure stash they find, a couple extra scrolls, magic item that's light, that's really not going to hurt them much, but maybe it's a one-use, two-use sort of wand situation, something that just kind of gets them going a bit. Because I know as a new DM, I was always wondering, are my players having fun? Are they enjoying this? Is this a good time? But having these little things in my pocket, these complications or these boons, they help make sure I'm at the right pace of the game. Coming in at number 4, you're going to want to ask players to help you out during the game. Maybe take one of them aside, maybe the person who's usually the DM, and say, hey, can you help me out in this scene when this happens? Can you really turn up your role playing? Or hey, can you remind me, I get stuck on these rules, can you walk me through that? Or can you remind me in game in case I forget? That player's gonna love that you're asking them for help, they should, and you're gonna have kind of a helper during the game, someone who can maybe track initiative for you, keep track of hit points, keep track of something, because it's a lot to keep track of as a DM. And number 5, don't sweat the mistakes. No one is going to remember the mistakes of, oh, I should have said this, or I missed this die roll, or I didn't check for this, or I got that rule wrong. No one's worried about that. All you need to focus on when you're a dungeon master is telling a great story and having the people at the table help you tell it. That's it. Now, sure, there's going to be mistakes and flubs and questions and flipping for the rule book, but don't let the sweat happen where you're worried what someone's thinking. This is not your 5th grade solo that you botched. It's not. So what you want to do is have fun, and when it's all said and done, ask for feedback from the group and do it again. I see a lot of people DM once, and then they're done. They think that you're getting a certificate in the mail. They're not. Keep going. And maybe you're like, yeah, but our campaign is moving along, and the DM's back, or we've switched seats. That's fine. Find another game to DM, and it doesn't have to be Dungeons & Dragons. You have a plethora of choices, and then that story can be completely yours. Thanks a lot. I've been Ryan McRae. I'm from Burn the Tavern Down, a newsletter that you get weekly where I talk about game ideas, game reviews, games I like, games. And if you would like and subscribe right down here. In that description down below, you can see where you subscribe, and I would love to have you. Keep rolling, keep playing games, tell your friends about this, tell your favorite grandma, and I will see you in a bit.